Danielle Knight, thank you so much for tuning in. Tonight we are talking about flipbooks, 10 tips on using flipbooks in secondary classrooms. We're going to focus on English language arts, as Sara and I, that's our background. And before we get started with talking about flipbooks, because for Sara and I both, it is a true love of, it's like a go-to teaching strategy her and I really love to use. So Sara, before we get started, can you tell everybody about yourself?
Sure. I am kind of like Batman because I have two jobs. I teach by day and tutor by night. I teach middle school and I tutor high school, mostly test prep. So I'm like your go-to ACT person locally. And I'm in the middle of some maternity leave. So I will be going back to the classroom in the fall. And right now I'm mostly just working on my blog and trying to connect with people on Instagram and just get to know other English teachers between now and then and get some ideas.
So what's the most popular right now? Is it, I know when I was a child, the SAT was the most popular, especially for like the test prep. Mm-hmm. But now I know ACT tests is also as popular?
Probably. It varies a little bit by region
and
where you live.
Okay.
And some schools still prefer one over the other, but for the most part, colleges don't care. Just send them scores that are good.
Okay, that's now so most of your clients, is it an SAT need?
Most of the people in my community want the ACT. They find it to be a little bit easier despite the difficult science section.
Yeah.
And they just have more success with it.
I am sharing our Facebook Live in a closed group. Okay. Excellent. And what is your blog again?
SecondarySara.com.
Cool. And it's filled with ELA goodies, tips, strategies. I'm looking at it and it's beautiful. It's modern and many different types of blog posts. So definitely check that out. And afterwards, Sara's going to drop her contact information in the comments in case anybody wants to visit you after. Okay. So tonight we're going to talk about flipbooks.
Yes.
And what do we mean by flipbooks? So they're, go ahead. So they're layered and they look like a lot of fun. The tabs are showing. I say they look like a flight of stairs when I assemble them in my own classroom. So as Sara holds up one on her end, I will hold up the Canterbury Tales one on my end. And as you can see, it is like steps. It's like the best thing I could tell my students, like, you know, they go down like this. So why would you use a flip book in your classroom?
I think a flip book is immensely more powerful than your typical worksheet. They're more valuable in how students keep and use them. And quite frankly, kids get a lot of paper from us in just one day from every class. Multiply that by all the different folders and binders that they have, and they're carrying around a lot of papers that look the same, a lot of worksheets. So if they get a flip book, it's a little bit more memorable.
Yeah.
And it's more user-friendly because you can more quickly skim it to find what you need. So there's a lot of visual power here, and there's a lot of practical use that I like that you can't just get out of a packet.
So everything you just said, of course, I agree with. And I think the whole flipbook phenomenon in my classroom started with myself. I could not pass out another worksheet, like you just said. They get a lot of worksheets. And I was just like, oh my God, another worksheet. How also too, my background is teaching special ed English. Mm-hmm. So I had inclusion classrooms that were at the college prep level and small group instruction classes. Both levels of students, everybody was losing everything, as you could agree, right?
Yes.
So it was like, okay, you could give them, you can have your children, you can have your students have folders, putting all their papers in their folders, but what happens with all the papers? Everything's all sticking out all the time.
Yep.
And getting destroyed, lost, stolen, misplaced on the bus. So how are we going to put everything together? And I was like, you know what, these flip books are awesome. And I believe back then I was intrigued by creating, I think I saw flip book for like multiple intelligences.
Ooh.
And I was like, oh, that would be great to apply to what the concepts in my own classroom.
Yep.
So that's when I gave birth to a novel flip book and a flip book for teacher evaluation.
Oh,
Stuff.
I saw that one. Yeah.
Yeah. So for teachers, because you remember in New Jersey, I think it was in like 2012, we started doing Charlotte Danielson. That was a popular one.
Yeah.
And it was very overwhelming. So then like the flip book would be a really good way to condense it and organize it.
Yep.
And refer to the different domains. So yeah, so I thought it was very user friendly and it was very visual, the flip book.
Yeah. I
You
mean,
can go right to your section, right? So what are the benefits of a flip book for students in an English class?
I think flip books can be used in more than one way, so the benefits can vary. For example, some of my flip books are just purely reference tools. The very first one I ever made was this little guy, and I wanted to explain to students how analysis needed to happen in essay writing. So first you have to like give your claim or your opinion or your topic sentence, and then you have to lead into the quote and state and cite the quote correctly, and then all the different steps of what you have to do after. I wanted to teach an exact order.
Right.
So I made the little tab so they could focus on one step of the analysis process at a time, and then just remember that order and not skip a step.
So now, Sarah, I love that mini flip you have there. So that's a writing reference tool.
Yes.
Do you allow your students to keep that out during their writing it? That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
I mean, they take it home with them. I'll write on the board and tell them when they need to bring it to class that week, so they make sure that they have it and don't just leave it at home. Sometimes I've let them keep it with them during a unit test or during a timed in-class writing, because I wanted them to make sure they gave me the content, and I cared more about something else than that.
One of my biggest reminders was the textual evidence and sentence starters. I always thought that was cool to put in the flip book. Because if you got stuck on how to start a sentence, here are your examples. And I always see my students taking it out for that. That always helped. So I feel that they were really beneficial in the English classroom, really for the organization.
Yeah.
Really just, it was for the organization, and everything is in one spot.
I love the template that I got from you. And
thank you.
Where I got this one. I made this because like, this is another reference one. It's just a whole bunch of different rhetorical devices and propaganda terms that, again, I wanted to house in one place without it being quite as overwhelming. So it's not.
You have a parallelism. That's it's a hard concept. That's cool. Right. You have that in there. Yeah. Look at that.
So it's a little bit like a giant glossary. So it's very useful for teaching vocabulary. But I also had a lot of like quotes from famous speakers. So it wasn't just like a dictionary all over again. So there was actual writing application too.
Okay. So along with what Sara said, the topics that go really well in English, I feel like I made them. Okay. So novel studies. And I also have here an example, like Sara has an example for writing. This is a flip book that a teacher might want to use in a resource classroom.
I love that.
It's got different types of writing, persuasive, expository, narrative, and open-ended. And now you would maybe add argumentative to this. In New Jersey, we used to call it, it was persuasive on the old standardized test.
Yep.
So in a resource room, I would hang this up, maybe put a hole in the corner, put it on like a hook, and I laminated it. And students can go back and refer to it over and over again.
Nice.
It's different, yeah. So this is it's purely a reference tool. The student would not fill anything on, they would receive it like this. Don't they take forever to assemble? Now, I know if you don't know what you're doing, yes. But if you organize it prior, you agree, it can go like an assembly line.
Honestly, like as long as you have enough scissors and enough staplers in the room, maybe at tables or centers or something, it goes really fast.
Yes.
The supplies are usually more of the holdup than actual like assembly of the pages.
So to save time, I always pre-staple them at the top.
Ooh, that's
I had a heavy duty stapler.
okay.
I nicknamed it Big Papa, and the students knew they weren't allowed to touch him or it. And it was like they joked about, you're gonna, Big Papa the stapler. So it would literally it would get 3 staples, and I would pre-assemble them before they even came in. And then as they came in, I would give them each, and they knew to get their scissors and just go.
Perfect.
Yeah, but I think the stapling. Do you staple them ahead, or do you have them do it?
I don't. I've made them do it. Sometimes as homework even. Like your only homework tonight is to make this flip book.
Right.
So we can use it in class tomorrow. And I usually haven't had problems with that.
You haven't had problems?
Mm-mm.
Okay, I think my issue was making sure they kept them in the correct order.
Yeah.
Because as soon as the pages do go out of order, you have that one tab that's like hanging weird.
Yeah.
Or it's missing because it's
right
below something else. So that's why on my end, I would always staple it, beforehand. But like Sara said, it just depends. You know your class the best, whatever you decide to do. And it also saves some time. We both don't recommend you cutting the flip book.
No.
That is just way too much for yourself.
Way too much time lost.
Way too much. And if you print the flip books in grayscale or black line, pass out your crayons and let them color in their tabs. And I have here, you can see like in the Canterbury Tales flip book, they colored them in. And once in a while I had a child be like, do I have to color? Yes, sit, relax, and color. Do your rainbow or whatever colors you want. And then
sometimes I've printed on colorful paper for them.
Oh, nice.
So like the cover or the top sheet is still white, but then alternating or just single colors.
That's a good idea.
For the flaps.
Now, do you bring it? You would bring your own paper, like you just tell the copy room to use different colors. That's nice.
Yeah, whatever they've got enough of, unless it's actually important. If I made a flip book for the giver, I'd probably insist on making it red. But
Oh, okay. So I have a blog post that is a visual representation on how to assemble the flip book.
Yes, I like your fliptorial.
The fliptorial, yeah. Oh my God, yeah, the fliptorial. So I would put that up on the smart board.
Okay.
And just leave it up there, and the children would refer to it. They would look at it. I also have a video in my TPT store, but that's more for the teacher. But the blog post itself, you can use it with your students because it actually gives you step-by-step on how to do it.
I've put this under a document camera before too.
Oh, that worked well?
Mm-hmm. Just magnify exactly how it is to be cut and just kind of model.
That's a really good idea.
And make one at the same time that they're making one, so they can't really get too far ahead of me.
Yeah, because you do always have the 1 or 2 in the room that are done, right? And then that one child that's really far ahead of everybody else, he cuts a tab off completely that he shouldn't have cut off. Yeah, that's happened. Yep. Scotch tape, or you break down and give them a new one. I know you want everybody to be happy. And okay, so now we're going to talk about assessing the flip book, and you and I are on the same page with this, so I'll let you take this.
Sure. First of all, I don't think they always need to be assessed. Most of my flip books aren't. Most of my flip books don't have a rubric, although I've made a rubric for some of them. And that's mostly because, again, some of them are reference tools, or some of my favorite flip books are just formative assessments that take a student through a process. So what I'm really going to grade is the project or the essay afterward that they use the flip book for. Like I have a narrative writing flip book that can take students through the writing process of like brainstorming and adding different writing techniques to a draft. So I'm not going to assess this flip book. I'm going to assess the story.
On whether or not they covered everything that's in the flip book. Right. Oh, that's great, because you created that to go with the assessment. That's awesome.
Plus, I don't always want to take the flip book from them to assess them, because that's time that I'm holding it that they're not. that they're not
That's a
using
good
it for
point.
this class or for a different class.
That's a really good point. So I had mentioned to you earlier that I've been known to hold the child accountable for the flip book, allow them to use the flip book on the test.
Nice.
So if it's a novel study and there's a final test on the novel unit, if your flip book is complete, you're going to kick butt on the test.
Mm-hmm.
Because all the, the content that's in the flip book will be on the test. So it would motivate the child to complete the flip book really well and to hold on to it, which I love because we don't want anybody to lose anything ever. I would do periodic checks on the flip book.
Yeah.
Like if the vocabulary was due on Tuesday, we would go over the vocabulary, but I would also go around and do a check.
Yep.
But I wasn't collecting them, like you said, like I wasn't collecting them and putting them in my possession for days because, it's not in their hands.
Right.
So, okay. So do we use them? Oh, okay. They're considered to be interactive notebook type of strategy,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't keep them stapled in an interactive notebook.
No.
Do you? Okay. So neither one of us do that.
No, most of the time they just keep it in a folder or a pocket in their binder. So a lot of times my students will get really possessive of them and will even like find a special zip pouch just for the flip book, or they'll find like some sort of back flap of the binder to tuck it in so it stays all smooth and protected.
That's really nice.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you're so lucky. That's great.
I mean, I really overhype and overstress these flip books, especially because I'm teaching 8th graders during the day. And I'm trying to convince these 8th graders to not only keep and use the flip book in my class and in the social studies class next door, I'm trying to con them to take the flip book to high school.
So, Sarah, did you ever have a child say to you, "Oh, not another flip book"? Did you ever have anybody say that to you? I have. I have.
But that day may come because I'm making more right
No,
now.
it's just funny. I always go. I was always like, "Oh, stop! Come on. You love them," and they just laugh. Or I've been told, "Miss, this is your thing, isn't it? Like, like this is you love these." I always get that because I get excited like you,
right,
over the flip book. Okay, so yeah, I don't either staple them into the really nice black and white journal book. They would hang out the sides, and I would not photocopy them at 80% to fit in. I think they would be too small.
I mean, it's fine if people do that, but again, you run more risk of what if the interactive notebook gets lost and now you've also lost the flip book, or if the notebook is not with you, then the flip book also isn't.
That's a good point. Double-sided or single-sided?
So I usually keep it single-sided because I want the upper blank flap. Like if here's what we're looking at, I want to keep this space open for notes.
Right.
Or like
that's right.
Little bits of writing or something.
So mine are also single-sided, just for the purpose of assembly. But my kids also always used the blank sides for additional note space.
Yep.
Always. And then I've also seen them staple more paper on the back. But yeah, the single-sided, that's what Sarah and I both prefer. Let's see. Now, you teach 8th graders.
Yes.
So my experiences in the classroom have always been high school.
Okay.
So do they appeal to teens or older grades? I'm going to say yes.
I mean, my students like them as well.
Yeah, I'm going to say yes. The couple the cool ones, with the I don't want to color. And then you turn around and they're like really focused on their coloring. But yeah, I think they're great for the older grades.
Anything that's not a packet is probably going to be appealing to older grades.
Isn't that the truth? Yeah, that the intimidating 30 pages stapled together could be right. No, you're right. Okay, so we are going to talk about technology and flip books.
Okay.
And this is actually, it's not the easiest to visualize. So if our viewers can go online after, and maybe if I have a couple blog posts I'll put in the comments after, where you can see examples of what a digital flipbook would look like.
Okay.
And I've used them, and they're kind of fun. I think they're created in Google Slides, and just like a flipbook you would have on paper, the flipbook on the Google Slides is also layered.
Nice.
And the child, to go to each tab, would click on the tab to go to that slide. So it's interactive in itself, and it's kind of like a flipbook, I guess, like on paper. I prefer them on Google Slides. I haven't seen them too much in other places. They are digital replicas of the paper version. That makes sense.
Yep.
They're layered exactly the same, and there's embedded links on the tabs.
Okay.
Okay. Do you want to add in?
Sorry.
Go ahead, Sara.
Are you usually sharing that Google slideshow to students as view only so they can't change it, or are you giving it to them in a way that they can edit?
So the Google Slides are embedded, so the child can't change what's on the slide. They could put the text box with their response.
Okay.
And they would have it in their folder in their Google Classroom possession. They would have ownership of it. So it would be just like having this.
I like that, because then they can add their parts without accidentally deleting the parts
totally.
you typed. And then
you're right.
It all up.
Totally right. Yeah, they're a little tricky on my end in like the creating process, because putting in the links, embedding the links, and making sure then you go back and test them to make sure they all go to the right spot. But I can imagine as a child using it, it's cool, because if you click on the vocabulary tab, click on the link, it jumps to the vocabulary slide.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a good one. So yes, they can be used in a paperless format. Let's see. Okay. What's your favorite flipbook resource that our viewers can use as a good starting point? Like if somebody after this Facebook Live wanted to go to visit you or me, okay, so what would you recommend for them to start with?
Oh, buddy. Well, I would say to think about, again, like, do you need a reference tool? Do you need a process tool? What do you need the most help with? If you really want to create your own, I like the template that you have, because that's what I've made all my big ones out of. So that's like your best place to start by yourself. I have a bunch of them that I love. Again, like I've got my old faithful writing analysis one.
No, I love that one.
I have a poetry analysis one that can be used with any poem. That kind of takes them from like the really basic level questions to harder, more advanced questions.
And to add to that one, Sara, because I love the poetry one. Poetry is difficult, I think, for a lot of teachers to teach.
Yeah.
And the child to grasp.
Yes.
It's very intimidating for a lot of people. So even like from the educator standpoint and from the child standpoint, a poetry flipbook is a great idea.
Thank you.
I think. Yeah, that's like, okay. Being that it's test prep season, I recommend someone that wants to start with flipbooks should go for a test prep flipbook with the different types of writing. That's a great reference tool, like Sara mentioned earlier. Mm-hmm. Or, of course, I have a love for short stories, and I think a short stories flipbook is a really great idea. I love novel studies flipbook. So whatever you have coming up next, go see if you can find a novel study flipbook for your next unit. And at this point in the school year, your students would be like, holy guacamole, this is cool. Where did you get this? Like, they'll want it. Like, it's different. Because at this point, they're like, oh my God, she hands me out another vocabulary worksheet. What am I going to do?
It's unexpected at this point in the year.
Yeah, I think as English teachers, we are there's so much we face as far as like getting kids to connect with the reading, the writing, another challenge is delivering modern, relevant materials.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you're looking for facelift for your classroom, we're not talking like full on Botox or, but like if you want to freshen things up a little bit, a flip book would be fun.
Definitely.
And poetry's coming soon. So
National Poetry Month, right around the corner
like
in April.
poetry could be any time of the year, but I always covered it in April.
Yeah.
Okay. So you had mentioned, what if somebody wanted to create their own flip book? And you gave me a good, thank you. I appreciate it. You mentioned that I had the flip book template in my resources, but you also have one in your store for making a novel study, don't you? Do you have one that's like one for, what do you have? Like a general one, right?
I do, kind of. It's not a template necessarily, but I have one to help students give a book talk.
Right.
And it's a good one to use for any novel, whether it's like a lit circle or independent reading or a whole class novel even. Because again, it takes kids through kind of your basic summary and vocab and like your opinion about it, and then gets them down into like theme and quote analysis and more advanced prompts once they've gotten past those different scaffolding levels and are ready for more of a challenge.
So what would an 8th grade class be covering right now, typically?
Well, it varies. In Ohio, we have got a lot of room for what exact order things need to happen in. Right now, I'd be doing research.
Oh, get out. Okay. So the research papers, setting up your research. So in New Jersey, typically this is Shakespeare season or the start of.
Okay.
Very popular Romeo and Juliet, like grade 9. Then we have like Macbeth's the one for like juniors, Hamlet, and Julius Caesar's more popular now. With all the political things going on, like it just seems to be really popular. Yeah, so it's like Shakespeare season. So right about now, I'd be getting ready with my Romeo and Juliet flip books and test prep.
Yeah.
In New Jersey, the Clark test. Do they have that in Ohio? Like, what's the standardized?
In some places, but we're kind of at a point of transition with what tests are happening.
Yeah, so Park's been around for a couple years. I think New Jersey Educators we were kind of hoping it would have been faded out, but it's still around.
Bummer.
Okay. All right. Yeah. No, we want it to go. Park. It's challenging, but they iron the bugs out. It's challenging to teach the prep for it, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. We covered our 10 tips. We covered some really cool things. I just want to talk about real quick some how to make things better with a flip book in your classroom. I showed Sara this earlier. I'm going to show our audience. So prior to launching a flip book with your unit, I recommend assembling one yourself. You and I talked about that. Yep. Assemble one for yourself. So one, what's going on. You can make sure your students are doing it correctly. You know what it entails. Then go ahead and staple it. Make sure it's colorful. Go ahead and put some magnetic tape on the back and maybe put it on your whiteboard in your room, something that's magnetic so it's visual in the room. If you don't have something like that, there could be like a bulletin board strip. You can put the pins up. You can hang it up just so it's a visual reminder. And sometimes I put an arrow to it saying, make sure you bring your flip book to class. And it's the constant for them to look at. You'll see your students actually going up to it to take a look at it to make sure theirs is done correctly. So that's a good tip. Just put some on the back. Just put it on up. Also too, and I've done this, if an administrator comes in to observe you, you can take it down and hand it to them just to show them what you're working on. Then you just walk away from them. But during your observation, it can give them something to look at. And let me tell you, they're really impressed. They are. It's cool. It's different. And they'll ask you about it after. So this is a very cool thing to have on hand. So that's a good one.
Danielle, also, every time I've made a flip book, I usually time myself making it so then I can say to students, guys, this only takes 5 minutes. Like, quit complaining.
Right. Just, yeah, 5 minutes. We always want children to be social during appropriate times. So during assembling the flip book, they just talk and move around, and that's a good time for you to talk and move around.
Yep.
Yeah. I just don't expect assembling a flip book to be done in silence. No, it's not a silent activity, but you want them to talk and, their thing. Okay, so I'm going to take a look at the audience questions to see if we have anything. We have some nice compliments, but Glitter Amy, who's here tonight, she's one of our regular viewers. She said, we hope the park dies this year. Yes, because she's in New Jersey with me. So yeah, so I am a parent of a second grader who brings home park, I guess it's Pearson homework, and it's very challenging for me to work on it with him. So yeah, so I would like to see that. And she also told me that she saw the video in my TPT store on how to assemble the flip book. Yeah, that was one of my first videos. And I think I'm going to upload this one to my store, and you should do the same.
Okay.
Yeah, because it supports what we're doing. Let's see. Oh, Amy Mesney said that the trash compactor scene is first when they first rescue Leah. Thank you, Amy, for correcting us.
I've been so tied up in this current trilogy that I'm starting to lose some of my knowledge.
Right. Okay, so we have Jackie's here tonight with us. So thank you everybody so much. So Sarah and I are going to drop some links in the comments. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. I am so happy that you're here with me, and we should come on together again.
Yeah.
Would you come back?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And this is also going to be formatted for my podcast. So that should be probably in a week or so. So everyone look for, if you're not subscribed to that, please go subscribe to it. It's in the iTunes store. It's free. And if you're a fan of listening to podcasts in the car, that's great. A lot of people have told me that, and you could listen to this again while you're driving to work or whenever. Okay, so thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye, Sarah. We'll talk again.
Bye.
And
Good
Sarah,
night.
in the comments, put some links for us.
I will.
Okay. Good night, everyone.